just to leave him out as bait. And then when he finds out that his friends aren't taking the bait because his friends are dipshits and terrible people, he flips him over and he, makes sure that axe goes through his entire torso, which is pretty brutal too.
And he also sets him up by getting him to look into a freezer, and then his buddy drops up from the ceiling.
Yeah, that's your classic fake out jump scare thing, right? We didn't really talk about this yet, but it makes me wonder what you thought of the underground tunnels, because I think that's a perfect example of what got us into these problems with Rob Zombie's Halloween, right, which came after. It was this idea that we needed to explain why, or not why, but how these guys got around and how they survived and all this just complete nonsense that we did not need. I guess after, 11 or 12 of these movies, we just needed answers. So I don't love the fact that we got this weird underground tunnel situation where Jason was able to, surprise people and get around the camp without being noticed because he had this enigmatic system set up.
This is the least frightening Jason ever on the franchise. Because
you think so?
He uses electricity. He sets up traps. He chains people up. He knows how to he knows how to do bow and arrow. He can tell. This one can. So I figured out I did that post where in Jason Goes to Manhattan that he doesn't really teleport. He just shuffles. This guy might actually teleport. There's a scene.
So
no, he's not scary.
You're thinking that is a demerit, that somehow a more capable Jason who can shoot arrows, who can strategize a little and set up traps, that makes him less formidable.
Michael Myers scared me because he was learning and killing and just moving along, just killing. I don't want a paranoid bunker Jason Voorhees who deals pot and practices archery. That's not a horror
Okay, but
villain.
I think we're adding characteristics to the lore. But I see what you're trying to say. I do think nobody's going to take issue or argue with the less is more, right? That Michael Myers is sort of an aberration who is like a shark. He just stalks and kills as he pleases. But this idea that somehow because Jason can shoot an arrow or cook or set up a trap, I don't know if that necessarily makes him less scary. I do think in presence, back to our point about Derek Mears, he's wonderfully suited for the role. I mean, this guy's big.
Yeah.
And not everybody who plays Jason is big. Like Kane Hodder is incredibly huge, but, he's more wide than he is maybe tall. That's why you had Ken Kirzinger in Freddy vs. Jason. He was a bit more sympathetic. He was tall. He was a little lanky. But, in terms of body and menace, I think Derek Mears brought an intimidation to the role that a few others did not.
Listen, would I rather fight the Jason from this movie, or would I rather run from? I wouldn't fight him. Would I rather run from the Jason from this movie or the Jason from the beginning of Jason Goes to Hell? I would rather run from the Jason Goes to Hell Jason from the beginning before he starts body swapping.
Sure.
But I'm more scared of the Jason Goes to Hell one in the beginning because it's just a murderer. It's like a supernatural murderer. It's not just a dude who is, like you said, a 7-Eleven Red Bull stoner. That's not scary to me, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put too much of the whole pot thing on this Jason because he might be a victim of circumstance, and maybe he's totally dare graduate, straight edge, anti-drug, but it's not something that's explored in the movie. So
I don't think he maybe does. I don't know if he smokes, but he definitely grows and distributes.
I mean, I don't know what kind of Venn diagram overlap exists where you're dealing weed, but you don't necessarily indulge in it.
Maybe he takes part in the never hit your own supply. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're trying to say. I don't know the aphorism, but I am familiar with it.
I mean, these are all hypotheticals, but I'm not afraid of this one. Could I survive him? No.
Okay, all right. What about Baghead Jason versus Hockey Mask Jason?
Baghead.
But that's, because it's scarier.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I am partial to the Baghead, and it is a very nice touch that they thought to include it.
if you looked over right now and you saw a dude with a bag on his head, or you looked over and you saw a guy with a hockey mask, both would be frightening. But one would be 11 and the other one would be a 10.
Yeah, I mean, they're both pretty terrifying, but I do think there's something unshowman-like about a bag over your head. It's more practical. Like a hockey mask, I don't think Jason's his vain. I think he clearly just wants to hide his damn face, and who wouldn't? A hockey mask, anybody could put a hockey mask on. You put that on for hockey. But who the hell runs around in the woods with a bag over their head?
Yeah, exactly. See, you got me all scared, man. Terrified.
I'm sorry. Turn the light on.
Yeah, my lights. I forgot to turn my light on in my room right now, so it's really dark actually, and I'm looking inside my house.
Ruh-roh.
I don't see my cats. I'm a little worried. All right, how about this? Let's take a break. I'm gonna walk around the house, and I'm gonna say, "Is anyone here?"
Check on the cats.
And I will be right back. Okay?
Okay.
I'll be right back, and we'll.
Oh, he said, "I'll be right back."
Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. And boy, that was a close one, Adam.
What happened, Mark?
Well, there was someone in my house, and they chased me around a lot. So I have an island in my house, and we ran around it about 50 times. And they kept trying to stop, start, trick me. And eventually, we just started chatting. And, yeah, I mean, the guy wasn't that bad. So I said, "See you later." He took off, because we just kind of called it a draw.
Oh, that's a relief. You didn't want anything?
No, well, he said, listen, I would have totally have, wiped you out, but I don't know, you kind of get me, and you got some slick island maneuvering skills. And I was like, "Oh, you too, man. Thanks for not hurting my cats like a crazy person."
See, you can fight evil with reason.
Yeah, and turns out he's a fan of Deep Blue Sea, Adam.
Oh no, that's why.
Yeah. Well, he was actually working in a theater too. It's funny. So I was working in a theater in St. Pete. He was working in a theater in Tampa. So, I mean, it's weird. And then we kind of talked about our time in Ybor, and then he kind of he started talking about some weird stuff. And I was like, "Hey, man, I get it. I respect it.
I didn't realize this was turning into a classic Florida man story, but This makes more sense now.
And, we kind of talked, and he's like, "Hey, man, did you used to box in bars back in 2000, 2001? I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I saw one of your fights." And I was like, "Oh, that was awesome." I was like, "Were you the guy that was dealing weed outside?" He's like, "Yeah, that was me." So, but then he's like, "You don't know my name, do you?" I was like, No, I just remember he was like the weed guy. Like, that's it. And he's like, "Well, I told you I'm from Tampa." And I was like, "Well, there's tons of people from Tampa." And he's like, "Okay, so you don't know my name." I'm like, "Well, I haven't even seen your face." So it got a little weird there for a second. We did a couple laps around the island again. But he said he had some bath salts to go do, so who knows what's going to happen.
Well, I'm glad you're alive and with us.
Yeah, I mean, bath salts, man, that's a Florida thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're not all proud of it.
All right, so Jason X?
Jason the 10th, yes.
Now, oh, brother. You know what I meant.
Jason the 10th, yes, it's like classic Shakespeare.
I like saying Jason X.
Jason triple X.
How many people say Jason 10, and how many people say Jason X?
I mean, it's your classic iPhone X situation, right?
Yeah.
What did Tim Cook what did he want us to call it?
Now,
did he want us to call it? I think it's the iPhone. Is it 10? I think it's 10. I don't know what he wanted it to be, but that's the same rule we should apply for here for
now,
Jason.
I gotta say, this brought back flashbacks. When I wrote an April Fool's Day post about a movie called Halloween 9: Battle on the Bayou, Michael's Final Halloween. And so I wrote this joke post about how the movie was sponsored by Yamaha, and it featured a very long jet ski chase at the end that would fulfill a prophecy. And when I wrote the movie out with Roman numerals, I used the V for 5, and then I just used the 4 eyes or 1, whatever, just to do the longest version of 9 possible. Now I know that it should have been like a 1 and then an X, whatever, you know what I mean. But some guy on an April Fool's Day is like, "You know how Roman numerals work?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do know how they work, but this looks funnier to me." And it's an April Fool's Day post. I'm feeling very defensive right now, Adam.
That's okay. Well, I mean, here we are. We're talking about Jason X.
I mean, this is a whole new paradigm for me. to call it Jason 10.
Yeah, and I was going to say that you don't find too many of these movies with Jason in the title, but I'm definitely way wrong on that. Let's think about this. Friday the 13th Part 4 is the final chapter.
Yeah.
5 is A New Beginning. 6 is Jason Lives. So
Yep.
that's 1. And then 7th is New Blood. 8 is Jason Takes Manhattan. So that's 2, right? So you got Jason in 2. And then the 9th one is Jason Goes to Hell. So that's 3.
Yeah.
So, Freddy versus Jason. So he's had his name mentioned in a number of them. But for some reason, the lack of Friday the 13th in the title for Jason X, it's kind of bold in its own way, right? Like, Friday the 13th on its own, very marketable. People get it immediately. Hockey mask, camp, killing, blah, blah, blah. You say to Jason, it's like saying, okay, this guy is so embedded in popular culture, you already know what this movie's about. So I almost appreciate it and admire it for that reason.
It had some interesting people working on it, too. Did you know that there's an Oscar winner who worked on it? Who did the special effects makeup?
What poor soul did that?
His name is Stephen Dupuis, maybe? Dupuis. He is a Cronenberg acolyte, and he worked on The Fly. He did Eastern Promises, Preacher, 300, Venom, and he won an Oscar for The Fly. And Cronenberg let a lot of his crew work on this movie just so he could be in it and be killed. So, I don't know, there was talent behind this. Also, the guy who did the production design did he's done every single TV show you could possibly think about. I mean, so many different things. The guy he did Orphan Black, which I love. I love that show. But this movie does have also the DP has done every TV show you could think about. So there is a very TV vibe to it. I know that sounds weird.
In more ways than one. I mean, look, this movie, apart from the other Friday the 13th movies, it does have a budget, but it has a budget in the way that like a sci-fi original movie has a budget. 13
million this movie had.
Right. Well, then maybe that's more than a sci-fi original movie, but it definitely looks like a sci-fi original movie.
Yeah, I mean, there are scenes in this film where the Marine, they're walking around and they look like the cheapest sets I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what's on this ship, Adam.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. It's actually a huge ship. If you notice the space scenes and, I think, Toy Box Visuals who did a lot of this CGI stuff. But, for the time, it was okay. I mean, it was definitely more ambitious than any other Friday the 13th in terms of special effects CGI work.
It's fun. So I was watching the documentary and someone said it's not embarrassed to be Jason X.
Right.
And I think that's the charm of it because, I mean, this movie, it knows what it is. I mean, there's a scene where a woman gets sucked out of a spaceship, and before she gets sucked out, she says, "This sucks on every level."
Yeah, I don't know. That might have been too on the nose for me in that scene, and I think most people who are listening to this know what I'm referring to, but fine. I mean, it's like, at this point, our killer's in space. We've fulfilled the punchline of, Leprechaun in space, Jason in space, and here's where we're at now. We're watching people get sucked through holes like in Goldfinger, and that's their final words.
Oh, I loved it. And all right, so it was made, then it waited 2 years to release it, and during that time it was incredibly pirated. Do you think that really hurt its box office, or do you think people just saw a Jason movie so they pirated it?
Oh, I don't know. That's hard, because back then, like, pirating was definitely not the same as it was now. Was that not like that tail end of LimeWire / BearShare Napster? I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, it was only people with probably very good internet access. I mean, I was getting songs that took me 15 minutes long. But yeah, people were down. It was a downloaded movie. Also, I thought another thing was cool. I mean, it's been covered by Mythbusters, so it can't be at all terrible.
That scene, or was it the Goldfinger scene?
No, the scene where a woman's face gets frozen, then smashed.
Oh, the cryogenic kill. That one's sick.
Isn't it good?
It's such a good kill. And it's like perfectly graphic So to the point where you